I remember after I had my kiddo, and there was this big glorious plan, right? I was going to have the baby at home. I had a birthing tub. It was awesome. Fast forward, had to go to the hospital. And the next day, after having the baby, they were like, okay, time for you to go home. And I remember thinking, they are bananas. They're bananas. They can't just send me home with this baby. They didn't have a pamphlet. They didn't have a handout like, here's the things you should know. Here's what to watch for. I was terrified, and I just wanted somebody to tell me what to do. You cannot let me walk away with this brand new infant, child, human life with no instructions. This is sometimes how we approach life itself, yeah? Waiting for somebody to just tell us what to do. This is what the map that you long for, this blueprint, this set of instructions to a greater abundance. We're going to talk about how to find the map, how to get the blueprint, how to figure out what to do. Because my darling, in week 3 of the Abundant Design series, we're going to learn how to access your map, your unique blueprint. And one thing you need to know right up front is it is not outside of you. You tuned in and turned on is the map. And I can tell you that living without a blueprint, an external, inherited, handed over, researched blueprint, can feel really frightening, maybe even overwhelming, and definitely goes against the grain of societal and cultural norm. Right? Because think about it. Your parents have a script for you to follow, right? You're going to do school, you're going to graduate, you're going to go to college, you're going to get the great job, you're going to work the job for X amount of years, and then you're going to retire and all will be well with your suburban home and 2.5 kids and the things. That's the blueprint some of you have been handed. And if you've been paying attention, you realize that's not a thing anymore. It has not been a thing for a very long time. And the truth is it's never been a thing. It has always been an external map that may provide a sense of comfort, even a false sense of security and safety. But it is not your map to greater good and a fully awake and alive and aware life of abundance. The only map there is for you to follow to your greater good is you. Tuned in, turned on, fully awake and alive as your wholly true nature. And I know that seems maybe idealistic or facing all of the external conditions and evidence in this reality, lowercase r reality. It seems like I'm talking bananas, or that you can't trust this map you hold. Which is why your abundant design, accessing it and living as it, is a faith practice. Why this is a spiritual living. And you, my darling, have a guaranteed experience of greater good and life abundantly when you choose to know yourself as divinely appointed in this moment in time, here on purpose, with all that you need, fully resourced from source itself. You've got this. You've absolutely got this. Think about the feeling I talked about last week, how do you feel a state of grace, a state of flow, of connectedness? It is in those feelings that you begin to find the experience of abundance. You feel your way into it. You feel your way into the expansion of it. It is from that rooted, grounded place that you are led to greater and greater and greater good. But it is a faith practice, right? Learning to trust that you are divinely made, that you are infinitely resourced for whatever it is you have been inspired to do. And this is a way of understanding that there's an inherent responsibility in your aliveness, right? There's an inherent responsibility to life itself as a member of this one incredible tapestry of the divine manifest as life. The responsibility is for you to show up awake and aware, willing, resourced, giving your gifts. That is your responsibility as a member of this abundant design. Your responsibility as a member, as a divinely appointed manifestation of the good, to know yourself as such, to live as such, as a spiritual being, fully human, resourced in this human, beautiful body and experience, and greater. Trusting that you truly are a member of an abundant life. I was sharing with my kiddo earlier, who's preparing to head off into the world and follow that divine inspiration in his own being and study and train in the performing arts. And I was trying to give him an uplifting metaphor to maybe work with. And I was saying, I want you to understand that life is good. Think of it like an amusement park that you've had the good, great fortune to be born in, and you get to choose your rides. You get to choose your experiences. If there are things in the park that don't turn you on, don't ride them. Don't go to that part of the park. If there are things in the park that you think should be there and they're not there, build it. This is his divine appointment. And I think you and I could easily get distracted by the belief that the world is horrible and scary and not good. So as a faith practice, you and I have to be willing to believe in this abundant design, to believe in the greater good and that it's ever available, to believe that life and humanity is good, inherently good, and ever moving towards greater good. That, my friends, is a critical way of being in your life to access your guaranteed map of greater good and abundance. I was speaking earlier in the series about order of operations in the spiritual life, right? Be, do, have. Be the wholeness and authentic and unique divine expression that you are. And from that beingness, do what is divinely inspired in your being to do. And as a result of that, have all the good that you need and desire. So I want to talk a little bit more about the doing piece, right? And if you've missed those earlier videos, go check out what it means to be in a state of grace, be in a worldview uncorrupted. And from that place, the doing. So the doing, my beloved, in this moment, I'm going to invite you to do the work of finding your map, beginning to define what is your way. I want to share with you that the Hebrew word for things is the same as the Hebrew word for word. Word and thing, same in the Hebrew language. Your word is required to make things. And word in a spiritual sense, right? Right? We know in the Hebrew Bible, the word was first. And it means that it is you defining your map in your being, in your consciousness, so that the thing can come. In the defining, in the naming, in the conceptualizing, in the making real in your own consciousness, the thing can come into form. That's the law. That's the spiritual law of creation. So the work then, the doing, is not in making things come into form. The doing is in defining your word, defining your map, locating that inspiration in you that is going to give you the spark of information, the spark or image or imagining for your life, for your doing, for your gifts that you want to give. And so one of the ways that you might consider doing that is getting, again, in the habit of accessing that state of grace, learning how to get still enough to feel and quiet enough to hear your word, hear your map, feel your map, so that then you can make it real in your own consciousness, right? It's like molding the clay of your own mind, of your own belief in what is possible, molding the concept of what you know to be true, allowing yourself to really, really anchor in consciously those possibilities. Anchor in consciously what you can imagine as possible, to receive, as Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, like to say, the impress of spirit. Because that's your map. That's your way forward. That's your way to having all that you would like to have. And I want to make sure that you're giving yourself permission to untangle yourself from what you think you want to have right now. Because I know that you and I have been told since the womb what we're supposed to want to have, right? 2.5 kids, picket fence, house in the suburbs, yada, 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 a mortgage. I'm asking you to untangle from that. And first, get to your map. Get to that divine impress in you. Removed from the pressures of what you were told you should want. Uncorrupted, so that you can approach and see and feel what is in you. Organically, naturally, letting it emerge from you. Cleanly, right? Purely. That's the spiritual doing in this abundant design process. And in that, I want to offer a little practice you can do this week. I want you to find your particular ways that you can be tuned in and turned on, right? Your particular map which is you tuned in and turned on. So I want you to do a couple of things this week in the designing, accessing of your map. You're going to fill your toolbox, your spiritual toolbox, your spiritual practice toolbox, and think about the ways that you already know that you feel tuned in. Maybe you feel that when you are hiking or walking in nature. Maybe you feel it when you're sitting in meditation or dancing your prayers, sitting in meditation, reading sacred text, contemplating. Maybe it's when you are in prayer with your beloved. Maybe it's cooking a gorgeous meal. I want you to identify some of the ways that you know now that you can get connected and tuned in. And I want you to know that these ways are so important that you must make them a priority in your daily life. So, these ways that you are tuned in, plug them into your calendar on a regular basis. Huge, massive priority in accessing and making use of your unique map within. The other piece is I want you to pay attention to what being turned on in your body feels like. You know, the erotic is a form of love, right? Eros, which is godly and divine and on purpose and meant for your good. So when you untangle the erotic and Eros from all of the cultural BS and, built inside patriarchy and colonialism, right? The erotic does not mean porn. The erotic doesn't even necessarily mean sex. Eros is you turned on for the purpose of living and creating in alignment with the divine. So a very specific piece of untangling I'm going to add to your homework this week is for you to start to identify some of the ways you feel turned on and what it feels like in your body. I can experience a little, what I call the uterine flip, when something's really got me excited. So I want you to find that in your body, untangled from all of the messages and miseducation you've received about Eros, the erotic. There's great power in you, tuned in and turned on. Your greatest power to live, to say yes, to say no, to create, to invent, to move in your abundant design for greater and greater good comes from this place, comes from this version of you who is tuned in and turned on, fully alive, awake, and aware. Yes? That is the homework this week. Please, please, if nothing else, get out your calendar right now and put one thing on it for the next week that you know is going to give you greater access to you tuned in and turned on. And also know that this process I'm inviting you into of tuning in to your turn-ons, this map that you will discover as you do so, is ever evolving and shifting and morphing and merging, growing, expanding, changing, because so are you. I love you so much.